Welcome, Nightcap with Mr. P, brought to you by Straight Talk with Dr. V and Mr. P. I am glad that you are here with me tonight. Hopefully, you got a nightcap ready. I don't know why my intro stopped. Gotta let this play. Welcome, glad you're here. Great show planned for you guys tonight. Getting ready to hit the streets in a little bit. Oh, excuse me, let me grab that. Getting ready to hit the streets for a few days, so I had to go ahead and drop this on y'all before I get out of town. Going to Savannah, Georgia, celebrate St. Patrick's Day, St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you folks early. You coming down? I'll let you, boy. If not, I'll see you when I get back. Again, welcome to Nightcap with Mr. P, brought to you by Straight Talk with Dr. V and Mr. P. Let me get comfortable here. So I'm going to talk about finances. Ooh, the big F word. We're going to talk about finances in a relationship. Seems to be a big topic going on lately. Not lately, it's always been the conversation, but 50-50 conversation. Who should pay what? Who should pay bills? Who should go half? Who should buy dinner? Who should get your hair fixed? Who should get your nails did? Who should get your flowed out, or whatever y'all are doing? And women wanting high value men, wanting those what's that 666 we got going on? 6 feet, 6 pack, 6 figures, something like that. Or you can get to 6 inches, That's what women want. That seems to be a big topic that's been going around last few years as the battle between what men want and what women want continue. So just want to have this conversation with you guys and put it into some type of perspective and just, give you some entertainment, some education, and some food for thought. So hopefully you'll find one of the 3 things with the Nightcap with Mr. P for me tonight. So, let's kick it off by here. I come across different skits or little reels, and I'm going to get into the reels one day. And so I thought this one was appropriate for our conversation. So I'm just going to show it up to the camera. I didn't feel like going through the hassle of trying to email it and do all that. So, I think you can hear it. You'll get the gist of it. But, Mr. P going to work on his technology and get it together one day. But bear with me. Let's play it. Hopefully you can hear it. Let's
Oh yeah, I unpacked, but I decided to leave most of your furniture because it's more cozy and stuff. So
What was your furniture?
Oh, well, most of it is back in Atlanta in Zone 7. So it get a little hectic, but I don't want to overwhelm you with all my stuff. It's a lot of stuff.
Okay. I just came from the leasing office, and they say they still haven't received your portion of the deposit, and we gotta pay that, otherwise we're gonna lose the place.
Oh, my deposit?
Yeah.
Today?
Right.
Oh, I don't want to be homeless or anything, but so basically with my job, it's crazy right now because it's like an emergency fraud something, but I don't get paid till Friday, so I can give you the money Friday.
Okay, but if you don't pay the leasing office today, I don't think they're gonna let us stay here till Friday because it's due today.
Well, you have a good job. Can you just take care of it?
Are you gonna pay me back?
Yeah, it's Friday, remember? Yeah.
All right, well, I'm gonna pay that.
Thank you. Yes, good man. Please, I ain't paying nothing. I don't got no job.
All right. So you got the gist of it. This young man and young woman are entering into a lease, which many of the young folks or the folks are doing today. Y'all shacking, as the old folks used to say. Y'all not, walking down that aisle. You're shacking up before. It is what it is. It's 2023. That's what people do. They move in together. They shack up. Some of them get married, most of them don't. But it is what it is. Well, apparently in this situation, there's a deposit, as most apartments required. You have that first deposit, sometimes that first and that last rent deposit. Shout out to y'all renters out there. Rent is high, I know, but you got to have that deposit. Now, realistically, you wouldn't get the keys without that deposit, but for the sake of this discussion, there's a deposit that the two, they didn't show it, but it seems like the expectation was you pay your half of the deposit, I pay my half of the deposit. That's like 50-50. I don't know what the dynamics are with who's going to pay the rent. They didn't get into that, but you can assume that, more than likely, the expectation is, you pay your half of the rent, and I pay my half of the rent. Well, seems like I do believe they're in a romantic style relationship. So I could be wrong, but for the sake of this discussion, they're a romantic relationship. They're moving in together. It doesn't appear that she moves in with him because she has her furniture, he has her furniture, but obviously his furniture's there, her furniture in Atlanta, wherever it is. But they're moving in, there's a deposit, and bam, she plays the I'll pay you back on Friday role. Now, he's never going to get the money back. Is he going to put her out? Does she want to be homeless? She said no. Sounds like her stuff is in another city. So she's far, far away from her home or where she lived prior without her resources. But so she's in his new location and she don't have her half of the deposit, or she's unwilling to do it. It is what it is. So some may say she shouldn't have to come up with the deposit. That's the man's responsibility. That's his job. If you want to be the man in a relationship, if you want to wear the pants, then he should provide a place for her to stay. You can argue that one way or the other. Everyone has their preference. So we're going to have that discussion, though. I just found it interesting that this conversation seems to be coming up over and over again. And it has a new spin to it, and there's new verbiage and new words and a new way people discuss it. But it's the same discussion that's been happening for a long time. If you go back to your history and you look at music, pop culture, ain't nothing going on but the rent. Look that up for y'all young folks. You got to have a job if you want to be with me. Ain't nothing going on but a rent. Then if you look up Bobby Womack, the original, if you think you're lonely now, you keep crying about what you ain't got and what your girlfriend's got. And every time I'm around, I'm broke. But when I'm out, you're lonely. So I can't be in two places at one time. If you think you're lonely now. So anyway, this is a conversation that's been happening over and over again. It just regurgitates and it comes in a different form now. And so let's take this back a little bit for a historical perspective, because basically for me, this is a conversation not necessarily so much grounded, in my opinion, in who makes what or who does what. I think ultimately it's about wealth and keeping my wealth or growing my wealth, and vice versa. That's just my personal opinion, because again, if you're a single person, you have to pay. For most of us, most working adults, most people who are fully capable have to pay for a place to stay. Some of us do live with other people or family, and some of us are blessed to have that luxury. But most of us, we pay to lay our head somewhere. So as a single individual, you have to pay to live indoors, right? You have to pay. You got to pay a rent, whether your name's on a lease or not. Eventually, somebody's going to come from some type of form of payment, right? So that is not a question. That is not up for debate. We know as an adult, you're expected to cover the expenses, at least at minimum, for yourself in order for you to live indoors, right? And then, buy your other food. So that is a given. I don't think that's ever going away. Charity is great and all, and there's people out there who get charity or who can get a ride free. I ain't mad at you, but for the majority of the people, where you lay your head, you're gonna have to pay some type of form of money, or you're expected to pay, right? So that's nothing new. Well, for some people, the dynamics change in their mind and in what their expectations are when they are either in a relationship or I don't even say committed, in a relationship, or if they get married. So for some people, if they're in a relationship, and let's speak on the elephant in the room. I don't want you guys to take it the wrong way, but specifically, it's women. It's the women. Their expectations change, right? So let's just call it what it is. I'm not trying to bash women. I'm not hating on women. I love women, but the women's expectations change when they enter into a relationship, because if she's not in a relationship, she's expected to pay her own bills. She expects to pay her own housing, right? But when she enters into a relationship, those expectations change. She expects the man in her life, and we're talking for the most part about male-female relationships, but the dynamics can change, same sex or whatever. But and we'll use the term, I guess, the masculine, for the, lack of a better word, the man type or individual in the relationship is expected to contribute to her well-being, to her financially support her in some aspect. I'm not saying all women, but there's some women where those expectations change. So if she's single, she doesn't expect anyone to support her lifestyle or pay her bills or, help her maintain her lifestyle. But when she enters into a relationship, those expectations change. And it might be for men too. I doubt that most men expect the woman that they're dealing with, and I don't know the dynamics for same-sex relationships. It may not be the different. So I'm not speaking to that. I don't have the knowledge on that, so I can't speak on that. But typically, in a heterosexual male-female relationship, a man's expectations on him taking care of himself does not change when he enters into a relationship. Now, for some men, their expectations of what they're to provide may change when they enter into a relationship or a situationship, or I don't know, even if they get involved with them, women. Some of their expectations may change. They may expect to have to contribute to her upkeep, or for her to ask, or her as part of the deal and enter into that relationship, that he provides some type of financial support or financial backing, whatever you want, whatever words you want to use, to that woman that he's in that relationship with. So I think there's some expectation for most men that financially there's a cost to being in a relationship. Financial cost. Now, I don't know if the same is for women. I can't speak from that point of view. I'd be curious as to what are the financial expectations that women have when they enter a relationship, if they have any, in terms of what, not the money that they receive. We know that's the breadth of what the expectations are, but what are the expectations that they expect to put out? How much money do they expect to spend being in a relationship? Because men, we expect to spend money in a relationship, whether it be in the form of dating, paying for meals, paying for trips, paying for outing, whatever it is. We expect some financial impact to being in a relationship. Most men. I'm pretty sure there's some that don't. And then I think there's a turn in the tide, specifically with some of the newer generations, where those expectations are, 50-50. Or if you're that on that equal rights tip or equality tip, your expectation may be just to put in 50 and she put in 50. I'm a little old school, so I don't necessarily expect that, particularly when dating a woman. But hey, I've been married a long time, so I don't have to worry about that. That's for y'all single folks. Y'all got to figure that out. But there's some financial expectations that happen, right? So, that's a good question. I'll be curious. Leave it in the comments what your thoughts are and what those expectations you are. And I think the question is, and the conversation is, those expectations, are they realistic? Are they antiquated? Should they be updated? Do they not fit the mold of the type of people and the money earning potential that men and women have today? I mean, are those expectations, should they be adjusted? Should you expect some type of financial support or financial contribution from either side? And we're speaking specifically of a relationship. And then when you enter into long-term relationships and eventually even into marriage, right? So we're not talking about, hey, y'all kicking it, y'all see each other whenever, or brief encounters. No, if you're in a committed relationship, are there expectations for you to have a financial responsibility to that person that you're into that relationship with? I mean, is it your job to fill in the gaps? And typically, on both sides, are you supposed to cover their back? If they come up short, or, I know that there's a lot of expectations from the man's perspective, but from the woman's perspective, I know y'all step up a lot of times too. Women step up and cover men's backs as well when you're in a relationship like that. Do you expect to do that? Or if that expectation is communicated to you, is that a deal breaker? I mean, is that a deal breaker for you? Hey, is a no bueno, no go? You can't roll like that? That's a good question. That's a good question. Let me know, for y'all single folks out there dating, what kind of expectations you guys are putting out there as well. But now let me give you Mr. P's perspective on this. And I think it's, and I'm gonna pound this in the ground, because I believe this is the solution to a lot of the social ills that we are having this day. Y'all single people need to get together. I think getting in healthy relationships, healthy marriages, solves so many of the problems that you guys have as single individuals and what we have as a society. So I think healthy relationships, healthy marriages solves a lot of the ills that we have in relationships. I just simply do. I simply think there's, the I guess the need for the attention, social media is a monster within itself. But if you get into real life relationships, solid, healthy relationships, hopefully it can solve some of the ills that, are the results of what we see on social media today. So, but let me educate you guys on something that I found was interesting when I was looking at this, right? So ultimately, when we're talking about relationships, we're talking about finances. And a lot of us grew up not having these conversations, or not getting the financial education that we needed. I myself, it wasn't talked about, it wasn't until my later years that I even got into getting a better understanding of how to manage the finances and things like that. So growing up, it was about survival. It was about getting, keeping them utilities on, keeping that rent paid. And although there were some family members in me who were homeowners, homeownership for me, it wasn't something that I saw that I know that I just knew that it was going to happen for me. But once I got to a certain point in life or a certain age, I knew that was a path for one I wanted. I got married at younger than most folks at 23. And I think since I've lived in the home, I believe so. Yeah. If I put my math together, I've lived in the home longer than I've lived in rental than a rental. So the majority at this point, I'm about to be Mr. P about to roll over to that half a century mark. I've been a homeowner, I would say, yeah, at least 25 years. Yeah, 25 years. So I got married at 23. So I've been a homeowner longer than I wasn't a homeowner, right? So with that being said, what I'm saying is there's a connection with obtaining wealth, financial literacy, financial growth, understanding finance, all that is connected to this whole notion of who in the relationship is responsible for taking care of who's responsible for the finances. This whole 50-50 notion of this, when you're in a relationship, who pays what, who's supposed to do what. So that's, I think, is all connected. It's all connected. And so let me share my desktop with you before. And I thought it was interesting. Let me share this with you so you can see this. Yeah, we're going to go with this. And I want to start here. Yeah, I think I want to start here. I think it's interesting that, everyone is so concerned with being an individual and, living their best life as an individual. And I think it's, kind of a selfish mindset that a lot of people have adopted, that they take on into relationships that creates barriers and challenges that cause the relationship to fail. So, I just wanted to make sure I get this one right. So, all right, I think it's right here. And I want to push this narrative and just tell you too. So the average marriage household income, I think I did that one. I thought I had the average. Let me make sure I get the average single income. Let me get that for you. The average, let's do the average single household. So let's get that. Average single household income. Okay, so here it is. And this is from 2021. So these numbers could vary, they can be changed, and it's all based on demographics, where you at, what part of the city you live, what tech you live in. But here it is. And I think the men earned a median salary of $50,391 in 2021, while women earned $36,726. So roughly, men on average, and black men making more than that. I think somebody has a number averaged around 42. And I don't know, black women are not that far from that. But for all single people in the U.S., average men make 50,000, average woman makes 36. Right? So most people out here ain't balling. So let's just keep it a buck. Y'all see people on social media, these celebrities who's talking about it. Most people are not balling like that. So 50,000 men, 36,000 for women. Separately, you're making $86,000, $87,000 separately combined. But check this out. The average income of a married couple is $131,000 a year. Let me say that again. The average annual pay for a domestic couple in the United States is $131,000 a year. $10,000 a month, a little over almost $11,000 a month. Single men, you making about 50. Women, y'all making about 36. Now, if you listen to this, you might be above average. So this is just average, right? So you might be more, you might be less. You might be considerably more, you might be considerably less. But married couples, average married couple, $131,000 a year. So on average, even you guys living separately, this is in one household, under one roof. They have one mortgage or one rent. Hopefully their mortgage, they got a house. They're buying a house by this time. One mortgage, one set of utilities, one set of insurance, homeowners insurance, one house. Single, 50, 36. Combined, y'all make like 37. So separately, y'all make about 37. I'm gonna even give y'all, bump it up to 60. You're 100,000. Separate, 60, 40, or match it, however you want to put it. You're making less as an individual than the average married couple. And you can split it. You can say each one of them makes 70, or 70, 60,000, whatever. But financially speaking, on average, married people in one household make more, even if you split it in half, than you guys as single people. I'm not saying that doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything. Just an interesting bit of information. So what do married people do that gives them a bump in income? Could be a number of things. My theory is they have two heads are better than one. Shared resources. So they have shared resources. They have shared knowledge. They have shared a lot of shared things that they do together that allows them to elevate financially, whereas you're operating as an individual, they're operating as a partnership, as a couple. And as they said, two heads are better than one. So I'm just saying, I'm not saying for the sake of it, and we're not always going to go with the negative of the worst and say, oh, they unhappy, they're loveless, or they're sexless. We're not talking about all that negative connotation. We're talking about people in healthy relationships. They're making more money than you guys. So it's, if you want to lead with finances, we're talking specifically finances. Sure, there's other factors and everything is subjective to a point, but on average, they're making more money, right? And here's the kicker. There are more homeowners. Let me pull it up. And the reason I pull this up is because the biggest wealth gain, or way people gain wealth, is through home ownership. That's the biggest, for most folks, that's their biggest asset. Most people, their home is their wealth building asset. That's how they build equity. They build overall, what's the word? Net worth, through real property, real estate, stuff that they can pass on or was passed on to them, real tangible property. Now, you may be making great money, and there's a lot of single folks out there who got houses. They do. But on average, two incomes means I could probably take a little bit more risk or get a little bit more house than you can by yourself. Might be in a little bit nicer neighborhood, a little more up mobile neighborhood with better schools than you could by yourself. Not saying that it's impossible. So don't come over here talking about the exceptions. And yeah, of course. But on average, most of the, two income families, they doing okay. When they stay together and they build wealth, They build wealth faster because they have more access to resources. They have two mindsets. They have two extended families. That's a lot of things that you don't take into consideration. They have two extended families. So we can lean on my family and we can lean on her family. Big Mama can watch the kids for free. Auntie Betty over here can watch the kids for free. Well, all you got is, for those of you who are single parents, and hopefully you and the father have a great relationship. But the way y'all talking, hey, these fathers ain't stepping up. So hopefully their families are stepping up. But that's the narrative that's going on. But we know that that's a false narrative because Black men are active in their families' lives. But again, when you have two people in the same household, you have more access to resources, more support. You just simply have more. And that's not knocking your single folks. I'm not coming at y'all. I'm just saying on average, when you're together, you have more. You have access to more. And that's just the nature of it. It's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just what it is. So, you can come on here and you can counter me with the negative. The negative is always going to have, but there's just as much positive as negatives. So you do have outliers on both sides. So, but something to think about. So with that being said, I just found it interesting. Also, peep this out. And I had to take a picture of this because I took this on my phone. But the home ownership rates, let's stay with me here. Home ownership rates from the 1940s, right? From the 1940s. And if you see here, that gray line, or that gray one, that top one, that's white. So in 1940, it was like 45.6. And it's kind of steady increase. Okay, took a little dip and it's still going up. And this was up to 2019. If you can't see this number here, it's 2019. So 1940, it was 45.6. And this is for home ownership rates since 1940. This is the white people, 73.4. Now they're higher than the average, overall average. 43.6 to 63.4 is the average from between 1940 and 2019. Now, some of this is social, economic, racial components. Absolutely. That plays a part in it. Yeah, that plays a part because we was here, but we weren't allowed. There were systems and things put in place that prevented us and stopped us from being on that same trajectory or having wealth and gaining wealth. So that's another subject. So I don't want to get on a tangent, but there was systematic things in place that stifled us. But some of this is self-inflicted. Some of this we're doing to ourselves. So peep this, 1940, 16.3%. Okay, that's Asian. Let me drop up here. 22.8. I'm sorry. The blue line right here, that's black. So 22.8% in 1940. And it peaked in 1980. About, I think that's 43.4, 48.4, somewhere right there. Peaked around 1980. We were trajecting well. Still hadn't caught up to some of the other folks, but we were doing well. Still a little flat, could be better, but we were on the upward slope. Then something started happening around 1990. And then I'm sorry for this picture, you can't see it, but this is 1990 and this is 2000. And then it's 2010, 2015, and 2019. Now, if you watch Nightcap last week, when I talked to you, not last week or the week before, when I talked about, what did I talk about? Something happened. Oh, I talked about the use of toxic masculinity and things like that. Something was happening around 1990. them 90s into the 2000s, something happened in our community. We knew in the 80s, we knew what started that. We know that was the war on drugs. We know that was the crack coming into the communities. We knew that what that was. We knew, so if accounting for that, we knew what was causing the neighborhoods to collapse, causing families to be broken. You know, we know the prison industrial system. We know all that what happened in 1980. So that's a separate story. But right now we're talking finance, wealth, and things like that. Woo, I must be speaking the truth. I was speaking too much truth to life, to facts. Somebody don't want me to continue. Pete, Mr. P, y'all keep up with me. I was speaking them facts, too much truth. Woo! Somebody don't want me to keep going, but I'm gonna keep going, right? Peep this. Peep this. Right? So I talked about the 1980s, between 1980 and 1990. But we seem to start getting it back together around 2000. We started getting it back together. 2010, okay, 47.5. Then it kind of went down here again, 45.6, recovered a little bit to 2019. Excuse me. And if you look now, I think we dipped down a little bit too. The pandemic hit us hard. But interesting enough, also, and I'm not saying this is a causation, just an interesting corresponding thing that you notice here. Peep this. Now, this is the percentage of never married among those age 35 and older by sex and race. So, peep this. Never married, 35 and older, and it goes back to 1890, and it goes all the way up to 2010. Peep this. So, this let's find the black men. Okay, this is black men, and then this purple is black women. 1890. So we're not gonna go back there. So I'm gonna start with, to be consistent, I'm gonna start in 1940. So in 1940, and this is the percentage of 35 and older who were never married. So in 1940, it was about, I say that's about 12% for men, 9% for women, black women. No, I'm sorry, it's dropped down to 6% for black women. The green is white women. All right, so we were on par with white men. And 1940, and black women were like 6%, way below where they should be. But there's other reasons for that. We'll talk about that at that time. Peep this. 1980. So, and just for clarification, make sure you understand that. So in 1940, there was only 6% of black women who were over at 35 and older who were never married. So that means 94% of black women in 1940 were married by the time they were 35. 35 and older, 94% of them were married. And for black men, that's roughly, that's 12%. So that's like 88% of black men 35 and older were married. Let's go to 1980. Pivotal point. In 1980, black men were at 10% and black women were at 5%. Yeah, roughly. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. These colors are blowing me off. This is black men, 10%, black women, a little bit behind at, I would say that's about 8%. So 90% of black men in 1980 were married, and about 82%. No, that's 8%. So 92%. So 80, 90, and 92% of black men and black women by the age they were 35 were married. Right? Well, dang. That's in 1980. 1990, the number jumped. For black men, like a little over 15%, and black women as a little under 15%. So, okay. So 2000 number was closer for both parties, for both black men and both women, was the number jumped up to 20%. So that means it dropped down to 80% of black men and 80% of black women over the age of 35 were married. Now, it cuts off at 2010. Now, in 2010, it is 25% for both. So by 2010, over 35, 75% of black people were married, both men and women. Now, if you look now, and this chart doesn't go that far, I don't have the statistic, but if you look now, they say 1 in 3, is it either 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 black women will ever get married for their lives. So this is the same information, but this is at 45. At 45 and older, some of the same information. And you see that the rate goes higher, goes a little bit higher the older you get. So I think that's an interesting dynamics, that we're not getting less and less black men and black women are getting married. And wealth, we're looking at wealth. The wealth gain around the same time period, which we're using based on home ownership, drops. For me, that's not saying causation. I just think it's interesting that home ownership, the way that we gauge wealth a lot of times is the American dream, and how we acquire wealth drops among black people around the same time period that black folks, the drop in black folks getting married. And it makes sense financially with the price of homes going up to what they are now. Folks can't afford it. You can't afford, many single people cannot afford to be homeowners by themselves, and given by the average salary that they have. And then you factor in other factors, like if they have children, they become single parents, that really takes a toll on your financial capability for buying a house. Now, again, I'm not saying this is everybody, it's not an anomaly, but on average, if you're a single person with kids, it's much more challenging for you to become a homeowner than it is with a married couple with kids. It's just a fact of life. So I thought that this is interesting that those two things kind of follow a trajectory. So again, I'm not saying it's causation. I'm sure there's other factors that are related to it, financial and systematic, or whatever you may. But I just think it's interesting that as we stay separate, the wealth that we're able to build and gain is impacted negatively as well. So we may be making more money in terms of salary, but in terms of gaining wealth, we are not on the same path in the same trajectory, because we're not putting our finances, we're not combining our resources We're not putting our finances together, and we're not putting ourselves in positions to gain wealth and to pass. I know we use that term generational wealth a lot. We're not putting ourselves in positions to obtain generational wealth. So I'm not saying you can't do it as an individual, but it sure is a lot easier when you got a partner beside you putting in the same energy and effort, or putting in some energy and effort, whatever you guys agree to. Because again, nothing's going to be 50-50. That argument, it needs to go away, because anybody who thinks that 50-50 in a relationship, whether it be strictly financial, whether it be responsibility, cleaning, cooking, caring for the kids, planning dates, anything, that 50-50 line is going to set you up for failure, because it's just there's no way to do that, because you're going to spend too much time and energy and effort trying to measure who did what versus combining 100 and 100 and putting it in. So just drop that knowledge for you for a second. So I just thought that was interesting for me. And again, homeowners, high income earners, people who got money, who put it together, those are the ones who buying houses, who obtaining wealth. Those are the people that doing it. Y'all single folks, yeah, some of y'all living y'all best life, y'all getting the bag, but you're not gaining that wealth, not the way that you think you are. So just thought it was interesting. And again, I just want to put this over here: income range, household income, percentage of households. Single folks, say women, they say y'all average about, again, if you make more than this, I'm not talking about you, but on the average, income range $35,000 to $49,000 a year. You're on average 11% of households you are buying a home. So I'm sorry, the percentage of households that. So 11% of y'all are doing that. Are making 35 to 49. 16% are making 50 to 75,000, and then 12% is making 75 to 99. As we go up, the numbers get lower. 100,000 to 150, 16%, 150 to 199, 7.9%, and 200,000 or more is 9.8%. So the higher income you go, the less people are making that. Most people are not making this, are down here, right? So, but when you combine those resources, it puts you in this higher category here. And those are the people who are buying homes. I was trying to find you that. Those are the people buying homes. Yeah. This is for 2010 to 2020. That puts you in that high income bracket. And those are the people who are getting the wealth house. High income, 42.6%. And you see it dropped. In 2010, they only had 28% of the wealth, the housing wealth. And that's in equity and property, real estate and property. Now they're up to 42%. Poor folks took a hit. Low income, you had 28.2% in 2010. Now you're down to 19.8%. Even the middle income people dropped. So 43.8% to 37.5%. The only people that had gains were high income. So these are the people who are gaining wealth through home ownership. And these are more likely the people who are married or in long-term committed relationships, and they're combining their finances to position themselves. I'm not saying you should get married for money. I'm not saying that's the only thing. I'm just saying that it's something to think about. Something out there. It's beneficial for you to put your pride to the side, or your ego, or, chop that list down to some important factors so that you can get with somebody and y'all can do the damn thing, as they said back in the day. So interesting. So something else I want to share with you guys too. I took a survey of mostly married, some committed relationship couples. And I asked them the question about, how do you and your spouse or your partner handle your finances? Do you combine them? Are they combined or separated? And let me make sure I read you guys the exact question so that I can give them the exact response that I got. So I didn't want to know about the distribution or anything like that. I just simply ask the question of how do you handle your finances? So let me make sure. Do you and your spouse combine your finances or keep everything separate? Okay, so that's the next iteration of what we're going to discuss. So I asked them, do you combine or keep it separate? And I got about, I guess this is like 20 responses. Yeah, 20 responses. And surprisingly, I think that's right, 15, 17. So separate and combined was kind of split, almost the exact same number. And then there was a hybrid. Some people says both. Small percentage. So if I had to do a calculation, I would say about 2% did a hybrid, and then I would say 40, a little bit, 40, so that's 98, 43% are, no, let me make sure I do my math. Y'all finna make me do this math in my head. So let's say 2%, that leaves 98. Let's split that in half. So I'll say 43%. No, that would be 48% and 46%. I think that's it. Yeah. 48 and no, let's just say 48 and 47. Somewhere around that. Yeah, I'm drinking a nightcap. I can't remember, but basically pretty close. Did combine and separate. And I didn't ask them why they did it. I didn't ask them the breakdown. They were just simple question. So about half the people do combined, meaning they combine their resources or they combine their finances, and then half they're separate, and then a very small percentage said hybrid. They do a little bit of the both. So me personally, me and my wife, we've always combined. That was never a question. That was from the very get-go. It was combined. Everything goes into one pot, and we work with that. People have various reasons for doing it. Maybe you can interject as why, but I'll be curious as to the level of trust between those who combine the finances and those who keep them separate. Is trust a factor, or is it past history or trauma or whatever it is? I'll be curious as to why those decisions were made to combine them versus keeping them separate. And was it 50-50? Is that the separate people? Are they 50-50? I didn't ask them about that. Do they do 50-50 to separate couples, or how do they do it? I'll be curious as to what that number is as well. But let's continue here. I found, to bring this full circle, I found 2 videos. Now, some people follow her. I don't really follow her. I don't follow her. Suze Orman. But let's peep what she says about how couples should split their finances, how finances, in her opinion, should be done. So let's peep this.
So many times, the person who makes the most money.
Okay, let's start over here. I want to make sure you're here.
Stand for the debt do you part? I don't think so. It's called debt do you part. And M just doesn't stand for marriage. It also stands for money. And so many times, the person who makes the most money is the one that they feel has the most power. Money doesn't determine if you're the most powerful or not. Hi, everybody. Suze Orman here, better known as the world's personal finance expert. Many people like to call me the money lady. I've been with KT for over 20 years. How many joint accounts do we have? Let me see if I can remember. None. We don't have one joint account. She has her money. I have my money. There's obviously our real estate we own jointly, and it works just fine. You all should be autonomous human beings. You've come into this relationship as an autonomous human being. You have to have money of your own. The last thing you want to do is to have to ask permission. You might have a joint account for joint expenses, but then you each need your own individual account. Let's just say you move in together and your partner or spouse is making $7,000 a month take home. You're bringing home $3,000 a month take home, but yet your joint expenses are $3,000 a month. Most people would say, well, let's just split it. But $1,500 a month for you is 50% of what you're bringing in versus maybe 25% of what your partner or spouse is bringing in. That's not how you're going to do it. This is what I want you to do. You have the $7,000 and the $3,000, that's $10,000. And you divide that into your household expenses, your joint expenses, $3,000. That's like 30%. Therefore, 30% of your $3,000 a month take home, or $900, goes into your account. 30% of the $7,000 take home, $2,100 a month, goes into the account. That's $3,000. Equal percentages, but not equal amounts of money.
Okay, so she says basically you should do equal percentages, which sounds, it sounds like cool. I can't be mad at that. So essentially she was saying what y'all should do. Let me make sure. Okay. Did I click something? Are we muting? Okay, so basically she's saying you should do it based on percentages. So she's not saying, I guess she could say you all can do, I guess you could consider that 50-50. I mean, no, you can't even consider that 50-50 in my opinion. You're basically saying whoever makes more should pay more. But you still keep your stuff separate. So, I mean, I can't be mad at her for that. I mean, if that works for you, and again, to each his own, not knocking anybody who does it any other kind of way. That's just what Susie said. So she's essentially saying, and again, she's not saying, and she's in a same-sex relationship, so I don't know if that matters, and I don't know how much her partner makes or her spouse makes, who makes what. But she says whoever makes the money does not dictate the power. So if we're talking about, a power dynamics or roles, I don't know. So we'll see. So let's try this other couple. Let me make sure I can get the sound on. I'm like, okay. While we mute it, let me get me some sound. Unmute. Okay.
Hi guys, welcome to a money discussion with skilled finances. My name is Lindy and this is Tando. If you're joining us for the first time, we're so excited to have you here with us. And if you're not already doing so, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're following us on all our socials. That's at Skilled Finances.
And this is my first time.
For those of you that love listening to a good podcast, whether you're driving somewhere or you're cleaning at home,
it seemed to be
make sure you follow us on podcast platforms.
Cool couple.
That's also
I just came
Skilled
across
Finances.
this.
Budgeting as a couple is one of the things that we get a lot of questions about. One of the biggest questions we get is how should me and my partner budget our money or split our finances? Now, what we're going to do today is actually give you 5 different ways that you and your partner can set up your budget for your finances. There is no one way to do this. There are so many different ways, and these 5 ways should give you some understanding and some variance, and hopefully should give you some insight into which way works for you, which way you should be doing in your relationship, and which way you would want to do with your budget. Now, you may start with one way and then switch with another way over time, but ultimately these 5 ways are the different options of how couples can come together, make sure that their money and their bills are paid for in their household, and then taking care of everything else and manage money in a way that's comfortable for the both of you together. So what is the first way of budgeting together as a couple?
So the first way that couples can budget together is to actually use the 50-50 split. So this one is one where you actually calculate what your bills and your expenses are and then split them 50-50. So you're not necessarily having to combine your two incomes together, but you're just saying, okay, so our household bills every month are £2,000. So let's split it 50-50. I'll take 1,000, you take 1,000. You make sure your 1,000's paid, I make sure my 1,000's paid. But at the end of the day, all the bills are paid and we've split it fairly.
Yeah, and this is to do with shared living expenses, to be clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, so okay. That's that 50-50. I don't think women like that. Peep this.
One who looked at me and said, "Oh no, you're not finna be out here like just wondering what you're gonna do. I got it."
Yeah.
So I'm used to security, like
You-
whatever I need.
Wait,
And I think
you used to
millennials
security from what?
The guy,
Right.
and they're used to giving it without feeling taken from or whatever. But the younger man these days, oh, it got to be 50-50. They not, oh, we gonna split this check.
And do you know why though?
Like,
Which
what?
I'm not upset with the 50-50 mindset. Here's why. Because they'll build wealth quicker than my generation.
I got you. But these guys are wealthy. They're not
No.
without.
Exactly. But it took them a little bit longer.
Mm.
Because this generation, like, Alex, my new creative director, right? His wife is also an influencer.
Okay.
So now you have two
Got you.
My mindset is I'm really not. I got money. So my thing is like, I'm not trying to make money.
Right. So the new generation, y'all seem to be on the 50-50 kick. Let's see what other things they say. I ain't mad at you.
Yeah, so we're talking, as Linda said, household bills, but we're also including things like groceries.
Yeah.
You may include things like car, but you would exclude everything else. So savings, debts, investments, giving, or any personal expenses, or any mobile phones, or I don't know, Xbox subscriptions.
So
anything
like
you
in that
don't
first
share,
video, old
you
girl's
think,
supposed to come up
actually,
with her
we're keeping
half
that separate. We are
of the
only
deposit. So
talking
this
about
would be in the
things that you're
50-50.
considering
He
shared
thinking
expenses
50-50.
that you're both
She
happy to
thinking
pay
something else.
into the same pot. That's at £2,000, and then everything else you leave separately. So that's the first way of doing it. The second method is actually pretty much the same as the first method, but the biggest difference is instead of splitting the shared living costs 50-50, you split it by income.
Yeah.
Now, this is particularly a good option for you if your income between you and your partner is very, very different.
Right.
So let's just say you earn $2,500 a month. Your partner earns $1,500 a month. Well, if you're both splitting £2,000 shared living costs 50-50, that means you have £1,500 left, but your partner has £500 left. And that could put you both in a sticky situation because all of a sudden you can afford a more expensive lifestyle than your partner can. So when you're saying, let's go out this weekend, let's do this and let's do that, you're coming at it from a position of 1,500, whereas your partner's looking at it was, I've only got 500. I can't, afford to do all of these different things. And so the other option is to then, instead of splitting it 50-50, you split it by income. So the way you calculate this is that you take your 2,500 and then you add it with your partner's 1.5. So that makes £4,000. That's kind of your combined income. But you can't, the reason why we're doing this is not to combine your finances, but it's to calculate what your percentage is.
So basically the
your
same
total
thing
pay
Susie
for the
Orman
house.
says.
So
You take a
2,500
percentage
is 63%
based on
of the
what your
total pay,
income is.
because we got to that by saying 2,500 divided by 4,000. And you do the same, 1,500 divided by 4,000 makes it 37%. Now, these percentages are then what you will use to split the cost, the shared costs. So you come back to that £2,000 shared living expenses amount, and you would say, okay, I'll take on 67% or 63%, sorry, because that's how much my income is. And then you take on 37% because that's how much your income is. But doing it that way, that means you both have a little bit more money left over. That's kind of equal. And also you don't have this big gap where you have so much money left and your partner has less money left over.
Yeah, so I actually like that one. I think it's a lot fairer, I guess, because it means that everyone's got something left over and one doesn't feel like, well, after I've paid for bills and stuff, I've barely got anything left over. So yeah.
So the people with the equality mindset, they're not going to like this because they're going to feel like that they're putting in more than their partner. So if you're hardline 50-50, you're not going to like this one. You're not going to like it because you're going to, it's an opportunity. Now you have to be, and again, hopefully the people who are into relationships are not as selfish, but the reality is most people are. You have to have an unselfish mindset because, again, you are not looking at the percentages in terms of I'm putting more and less. You're just making it fair based on what their salary are. If you know you make somebody significantly, you make significantly more than somebody, and you know that they're putting a bigger percentage of their income towards living expenses, you know their flexible or disposable income is going to be a lot less. So it's going to be twofold. It could be happening either way. So you're going to wind up paying for all the other dates or the things that don't have to be paid, or you're going to feel some type of way because they're not going to be able to afford to live the same lifestyle that you live outside of paying for their living expenses. Again, like they said, if you guys are splitting it 50-50 and y'all putting $1,000 each in and the other person is left with $500 and you left with $1,500, you're going to be wanting to burn that $1,500. You don't even want to go shopping. You want to go spend it. Most people not disciplined enough to just put it aside and stack it. Even if you're saving, you're still going to have a lot more disposable income. So it's not going to match up when it comes time to do trips, time to go do entertainment, time to do all those other things that people use that disposable income for. You're going to feel some type of way because they're not going to have it. They can't live the lifestyle that you live because they spent a bigger portion of their income on living expenses. And again, if you do it that way, they will have more disposable income. It makes it equitable, but you have to be unselfish in your mindset where it doesn't bother you that, hey, I'm putting in 53% of the expenses, living expenses, but it's balancing out our residual income. So now we both have disposable income that we can have the lifestyle that we want to live, where I'm not always the one picking up the bill when we go out to eat because you don't have it, or I'm not the one buying certain gifts and you can only give me a card and flowers because you just can't afford it. So let's see what else they say.
So the third way that couples actually manage their finances is to actually have a joint money mindset. Now, this is our favorite. This is the one that we actually use. And basically, it's just taking your incomes and joining them together as one. So you have one joint account or one account where you put all the money in together and you attack your bills or you deal with your bills together. So there is no split, nothing like that. It's everything's done together as a team. So the reason why I particularly like this one, it means that you've got an our money mindset. But if you're going to go down the route of using this method, you have to make sure that you and your partner are on the same page. You have regular conversations about your bills and how you're using your money, because it's both your money. You both have an equal say to what happens with it. So have regular conversations, have regular money date nights, talk about it, and always be on the same page. Don't just go use the money by yourself without letting your partner know what's going on. But at least if you're on the same page, it makes a lot of sense. Now, because it's an our money mindset, it's joint money, it also means your savings are joint, your investments are joint, and everything that you do is basically joined together.
Yeah, and this is a very different approach.
Yeah.
So that's why we call it a mindset rather than just a way of, budgeting your money, because it is a mindset shift of not looking at it as I've got my money, you've got your money. What am I paying for? What are you paying for? It's this shift of, it's not about who earns it, it's ours. And it's not about whose name is legally on the dotted line.
Yeah.
It is our debt or it is our savings, etc. So it is a very, very different approach to the other two that we mentioned earlier on. Now, the fourth.
Now, this is the approach that my wife and I have taken our entire relationship. It's with everything. So there's no, this is your credit card debt, your card note, yours, anything, none of that. So, I like this. I prefer it because, again, it pools the resources and provides us more access and more opportunity to manage things. For example, when we got together, say we got together and you had, let's just say $10,000 in credit card debt for whatever reason, or whatever student loan debt, or you had your car note. You had a car note that you were still paying on. And my car note got paid off or something like that, or I didn't have a car note. Well, because we pool our resources, that additional income or that money that I have access to that I'm no longer spending, we use that to pay off your debt, pay off your car note, pay off your, student loan, pay off anything outstanding that you had, or if something occurs, we have additional resources versus you trying to carry the burden by yourself. Like, well, I had this credit card before you came, I had these student loans, which is fine, but it doesn't make sense. It slows us down. If we can't buy a house because we got to wait till you pay down some of your debt, or because that you get in a certain position, and things happen. People in different financial positions. Hopefully you guys are level or similar, but we know the reality is people are not always on the same level in terms of financial positions and credit rating and things like that. But if you're committed to someone and you made that decision and you had that conversation, you guys are working toward a goal. Somebody, if you're working toward buying a house, if we've got to wait to you get in a certain position and I'm already in position, that's area for resentment, or it's time wasted. Whereas if we pooled our resources, we could put ourselves in a better position sooner, rather than operating as two separate entities and managing things separately. Because that's typically what happens. If you keep everything separate, the left doesn't necessarily always know what the right is. You know that you might have, hey, this person pays the rent, you want them to pay the rent, but most cases, they're not talking about what's going on with them financially unless it becomes a problem, or sometimes that they get so far behind, then it comes up. That's why a lot of people have financial issues or financial problems, that they're caught off guard. Because you're separate, in my opinion, because you keep everything separate and you're operating like two separate individuals, at least financially. How am I going to keep up with what you're doing, if I'm trying to keep up what I'm doing, versus us having a combined conversation? That's just my take on it. But again, it's baffling to me, and these situations happen, or you should not have to borrow money from a spouse, in my opinion. You shouldn't, either way. You shouldn't have to borrow gas money for a spouse or pay a spouse back. That's in my opinion. It shouldn't be where I've got to ask you to, hey, help me with this, or you got to ask me for $20 until I get paid, or lunch money. To me, that's ridiculous. That's just my opinion. It's ridiculous. If it's for the kingdom, it's a kingdom mindset for us. If it gets us to a better position, that's the goal. That's where we want to be. And again, two minds are always better than one. So the way I manage finances might be better, or the way you might manage, or we might do a combination of both and figure out what works best for us versus operating separately. And again, for me, it just creates an area that trust can be lost, or distrust can seek in, because it's not as transparent. Again, because if you don't have any idea of your partner's financial standing, what they have going on financially, or what position they in, you can be caught blindsided one way or the other. Or it's just weird to me not to be fully ingrained financially in each other. And some people might still do that and then keep everything separate. But for the most part, you do you. There's people do it both ways. For me, this works best for me and my wife, and we've done it for 25 plus years, and we'll always continue this. So she got a stash. I don't know about it, but I doubt that she does. If I have a stash, she don't know about it, but I don't. So there's no point in it, because again, I'm stashing money over here. Why? When that money could put us in a better position financially. So let's see what else they say.
Option is then actually the complete opposite of the joint money mindset, which is what we would call the one-man band budget. Now, what this looks like is actually where you would say, we are not going to combine anything.
Yeah.
We're not going to look at anything as shared expenses and have a bills account where we'll split the bills and things like that. It's actually where I'm going to keep my money in mine. You keep your money as yours, and I will pay for the rent and the gas and electric. you pay for the water and the fuel for the car and whatever the case is, right? Or I'll pay for the groceries this month, you pay for the groceries next month. It's very, very separate. There is no connection at any point where we are sharing anything, splitting anything, or combining anything. Everything is left completely separate, almost like you would do with, say, your roommates, for instance, or something that you do with, somebody that you live with. It's that kind of situation. Now, this setup might be good for couples who maybe don't want to combine the finances, couples who maybe don't want to find themselves in a situation where they are financially dependent on each other. They want to retain that independence.
Yeah, or even couples that are just starting out in the relationship, and maybe you've decided to move together, but you're still fresh, your relationship's still fresh, and you don't really know what your partner's full money habits are or what his money mindset is like. And instead of taking the risk of just saying, okay, let's just put it all together, you then decide let's take our time, see how we can work together, better understand each other before we jump into the deep. Absolutely. So the fifth and final way that couples can actually manage their money is to do a combination of two methods or a combination of three methods, whichever way you want to look at it. You basically take bits of a certain method and, put them together in the way that they work for you as a couple. So for example, you may not be comfortable yet to go all in and do the our money mindset and join all your money, but you may be comfortable doing that for certain things. Like, oh, okay, let's join our money for things like savings, so saving up for a house. Let's join our money for that. Let's join our money with investments and other things like that. But when it comes to maybe joining the bills and all that little other stuff, not yet. So with that, let's do the 50-50 split instead, or let's do the income split. So you just find a way that works for you and sort of build your own method as a couple.
Yeah, and this will look very, very different. And you might be like, we don't know what pot this falls under or what method this means, but it's just about figuring out what works for you. Now, one thing that we would say is that, be willing to try something. Yeah. You won't really know until you try it. But the best thing to do is for the both of you to have a conversation first about what you feel works for you or what you feel you'd like to do. And then come to an agreement of, okay, we will try this method. And if that method doesn't work, that's okay. It's okay to say, you know what, we tried this and it's not for us. Let's do something else. And let's do something else. And you kind of keep trying until you come to a way that does work for you. Don't expect any of these to just magically work on month number one. It may take a bit of time. Yeah. So that's the first thing to bear in mind. The second thing to also bear in mind is actually that, it's okay to come to a realization that you want to change the way you are managing your money as well, because it's something that it's easy for us in our relationships to get comfortable with the way things are. And you might be comfortable with okay, we've always done it 50-50. Let's just keep it that way. But actually, if you're really genuinely feeling, you know what, I would prefer it if we did a joint budget, then don't be afraid to have that conversation with your partner and just go to them and say, listen, I know we've been doing it like this for.
Okay. I don't know what else they're talking about on that, but what are your thoughts? Or I guess the sixth method, the man pay all the bills. And you do whatever you want with your money. I don't know. All right. Let me know what you think. I don't know. I'm glad I am married and I'm not in this world and joining finances. But again, money is a tool, and it's not the end all be all. And hopefully you get to a comfortable place and space in your life where you understand how money works and let it not be a determining factor in, I guess, the value of an individual who is interested in you or that you're interested in. Again, money comes and go. We really should be looking at mindset, wealth mindset for individuals and people looking to grow. Now, you can lead with salary, say this person got to be making such and such. But that is, for me, in my opinion, it's a slippery slope, because there's no guarantee that person will always be making that salary. There's no guarantee that they're managing that salary, because trust me, there's a lot of You know, I'm going to pick on the athletes here, multimillionaires who are broke. You ever watch that show Broke? A lot of former athletes, former entertainers, one-hit wonders who at the time were making over six figures. But through money management, mismanagement, or not financially sound decisions, they broke. Versus there are some people who have never broke six figures and living quite comfortably. Takes trips, houses paid off, cars paid off. They live well within their means, and they are very stable. Have a nice retirement, have 401k resources, have built and compounded on that money. But again, you miss out on those opportunities for those people. And again, this is for young people. Y'all old people, y'all old head, you're over 40 people, y'all already set in your ways. I get it. You want somebody who's already established, somebody who want to do a certain thing. I get that. But again, look for homeowners. Look for people who got their own house, because you know at least they have a mental or wealth mindset. So again, if you're 20, I get it. You not necessarily have to be a homeowner, but when you get to a certain stage in your life, look for people. You know, I don't have a problem you saying I only date homeowners. Cool. And again, it's subjective. There might be in a field where they move a lot, where they are, you know, they're not settling down, or they just move to an area. It may be a lot of factors, but taking everything into consideration, if they've been in a stable job for a period of time and they've been living in the same city for quite some while, you know, a better indicator, in my opinion, of what type of financially responsible person they are is home ownership. What do they own? What have they acquired? Not what they drive, because again, the car is a depreciating asset. So what they drive shouldn't really matter, because again, that car turned a corner and it could be totaled. Trust me. It's a depreciating asset, but do they have a home? Do they have property? What do they have? You know, those are the type of things that you should be asking, and looking at what a person makes. That salary is not guaranteed for life. There's a lot of things that could come into play where they might change careers. They may no longer want to do that. There's a lot of things. So salary is, while it's great, it is not the best indicator of financial stability and financial wherewithal. So, peep that out. And again, they might be one of them 50-50. Just because they make that over six figures, they don't want you to give none of that. So if you got to pick your battles. And also, please respond to me. Let me know where this expectation is that when you're in a relationship, you're no longer responsible for your living expenses. I was just curious. And, that just came to me, that thing. It's just a shift in mindset that if you're single, you are responsible and you feel responsible for your own expenses, but the expectations change when you join in a relationship. When you got a man, your expectation change. When you got a woman, does your expectation change? Yeah, it does. But is it for the better or for the worse? Or is it hindering you, or is it helping you? I don't know. That's for you to decide. But it's thank you again for stopping by, spending a little time with me on Nightcap with Mr. P, brought to you by Straight Talk with Dr. V and Mr. P. Mr. P about to hit the road. Have a little fun with some family and friends. If you're on your way to Savannah, be safe. It's St. Patrick's Day. Be careful out there. If you're in the city, hit me up. I'll be there somewhere with a cold drink. And as always, good night. God bless. I pray that God blesses you in the days to come. And that any troubles on your heart or laid to rest. And when you wake in the morning, you have more clarity than you had the day before. Peace out. Until next time, I'm out. Enjoyed my time with you. Hope you enjoyed. Hope it was educational, entertaining, and you got something out of it. Good night. From the Nightcap with Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk, Dr. D and Mr. P. Until next time, peace.